All right, in this video, we are going to talk about the Profit and Loss PnL Analyzer Advanced version. So a couple months ago, I made a PnL Analyzer basic version, which allows you to take up to a year's worth of transactional data, break it down by group and category in a pivot style fashion, and compare it to the previous year. It also allowed you to click an individual category and see the sub-transactions within that that made up that category. As I used it, I found, man, I really need some additional features. I really would like to change this from a month view for the columns to a breakdown by project or a breakdown by property, for example, for a real estate use case. So I created the PnL Analyzer Advanced, and here I want to show you some of the basic features. Okay, so when you first install it, it looks very much like the basic PnL Analyzer. However, there are a whole lot of additional features. Let's start first by looking at the fact that you can toggle on totals. Click the totals checkbox, and all of a sudden each group has a group total. You can change the name of that total if you want it to be, let's say, all caps. You could do that. Make sure to put a space at the end so it looks nice. You can move where the totals display. You can reorder any of the groups and categories. We'll get to that later. But first, just wanted to show you the totals. The next thing is you'll recognize this layout by time. Each column is a month up to a year's worth of time. You expand and you can compare to the previous year by month as well. But the key feature for the PnL Analyzer is now you can pivot by an aggregator. So I have a business data set here. I'm going to show you. You go to this monitoring panel, you click pivot by time, change it to aggregator, and all of a sudden you have a different layout where your aggregator, in this case for a real estate use case, I have abbreviations of names of properties as well as an LLC, as well as one column which shows me anything that's unassigned. In this case, everything is assigned to a property in this time period. We still have the missing categorization shown at the top and in the transaction selector. So that's one of the key features, is the ability to toggle quickly between time and aggregator. You can of course copy this template and make one of them your time view, one of them your aggregator view. Let's switch back to time for a moment and look at what I call the filter selection, which is something that you can use to filter this time layout. So here I can also click a property name like I had in the other view. If I click the first property, I now have a breakdown by time, month to month, for just that property. Okay, the next thing we can do is we can also display transfer categories. So if I click the show transfer categories, here you can see I have, for instance, owner's distributions for this LLC. That's one of the other features that has been added. So you have a breakdown by income, expense, and then transfer. Okay, let's talk about a new feature called the monitoring panel. Here you can see it has 3 sections, and it helps you understand what selections are made, and it also warns of certain errors or certain inconsistencies when things are not selected correctly. So it has a data sources section. It shows the transactions and categories sheet that we're using, and you could have more than one with different names. You can configure which one you want it to point to. It also has a filter. It tells you what your filter is set to. So in this case, I have my filter set by property. So you can see when I click that drop down, there's properties there. These things can be changed in the sheet refs section, which is a panel over here that's hidden, but it has the blue to indicate there's some things that you can modify here. So you can set those things, including the property, for your filter. The next part is called the pivot by. We looked at that before. This is where you'll switch between the time view and the aggregate view. When you do that, it's going to tell you what your field is that you're using for the aggregator. That's property in this case. It also allows you to change the name of that field, the column that shows any unassigned transactions to that aggregator field. So and those things can be updated in the ags section. That's here. That's where you'll choose your aggregator column, and you'll set up your aggregator, your aliases. You can change the order in which they appear. And the final thing is the ordering. There's a lot of flexibility and customization with how you lay out this report in the advanced version. You'll have a default ordering scheme we'll look at in a second, and you can also choose to show or hide categories regardless of how that's set up in another place. Like in the category sheet, you might have a hide column that tells you whether a category should be hidden in various reports. This allows you to override that and have your own custom decision in this report. So you'll go to the two panels called ordering and hidden in that case. So for ordering, by default, we have the groups ascending alphabetically, you can see. You have the totals on the bottom, and you have the categories ranked by the highest total first in each group. You can change that by going here to ordering, and you see that it's set up by default what I just described. If you change that to custom, we can, for instance, say, okay, I want admin and other in my expenses to fall to the bottom. So I would come over to expense categories, and you can see it here, admin and other. I can choose a ranked selection, and I can rank the things just in that one grouping, the ones that are the first gray here. I can make admin and other the last one, and I can change the ordering of the others just like that. We go back and we look, and the admin should fall to the bottom. So you can change that grouping. And lastly, as we said, we can go to the hidden panel, and there it's by default off, so it uses whatever your category sheet tells you. But if you turn it on, you have the ability to override that. So right now the category sheet says that the pest is hidden. It should actually now show up if it has data, because we do not have it hidden in our specialized view here. So let's see, yes, pest is there. Now let's turn it back off by selecting hide, and it should go away, and it did. And we can turn off another one. For instance, I don't want to see painting. I can hide it, and it will go away. So this is how you can hide and unhide columns. And again, the monitoring panel will warn you, show you that hidden cats override is on, and the ordering scheme is custom. Okay, the last thing I'd like to talk about is the transaction selector area, which has some enhancements of its own. As with before, when you don't have anything selected, you have shown the uncategorized transactions. So you could quickly jump to those and categorize them so that everything's classified. Like before, you can click any row, and immediately, if you have the cat selection by highlighter enabled, it will automatically show the transactions within that category. So here I picked remodeling. I can see all the remodeling. It's applying the alternating colors or bands based on the date, based on the field that is sorted, in this case the date. So by month, it is highlighting them for a better visual view by each month. Now what we've done is that you can sort by any of the columns in the transaction selector, which was previously not possible. So here I could pick to go ascending by property, and then I can have my banding by property, and I can look at each of the properties. I could highlight for that month and that property and see what my total was. I can do the same thing if I wanted to pick the tags, for instance. Pick up anything that's tagged. Here you have that. This brings me to another thing, which is the chart. The reason around row 100 I have a second chart is because each of the pivot views, the time and the aggregator, have a customized chart. So the default one at the top is based on time, which is the default pivot by view. If you change it to aggregator, this one down below is more customized for that aggregator view, and you can just move it up and delete the other one and use it that way. So, but that's basically it for the transaction selector. You can once again break it down by property. You can further filter it down by property, and then it's alternated by tags because that's the thing we have selected here. Well, that just about wraps up the overview of the new PnL Analyzer Advanced. I hope that you like what you see. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to a product page where you could make a one-time purchase to have your very own copy, yours to keep forever. If you have any questions or comments in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you very much.